Hi, and welcome to today's PD Friday video on flipping your classroom. In today's video, I will explain to you what the flipped classroom is and how you can start flipping your own lessons in your own classroom. To start, it's helpful to get some history about where flipped classroom came from. So, flipped classroom as a pedagogy has actually been around for the last 20 or so years. It's really gained a lot of momentum in the last 5 to 10. And these two teachers, Aaron Sams and John Bergman, are two high school chemistry teachers from Colorado. And they are probably the ones responsible for making this movement a lot more popular, but also really making it accessible to teachers, giving them resources and making it accessible for them to start flipping their own classrooms. So you're going to watch a 2-minute video about what Aaron and John are doing in their classrooms.
I'm Aaron Sams, and I teach science here at Woodland Park High School. My ultimate goal, I guess, as a teacher is to help students become learners who can learn for themselves and by themselves. One of the problems that I was guilty of even prior to flipping my classroom around was the classroom was centered around me. I told them exactly what to learn, how to learn it, what assignments to do to learn it, and when to learn it, and how to prove to me that they learned it. I don't do that anymore. We changed the place in which content is delivered. Instead of standing in front of a class and delivering, here's how you do this type of problem, here's how this works, I deliver that direct instruction now asynchronously at home through these videos that we make with Camtasia Studio.
Times till whole.
Oh, we didn't do that last time.
The last step, they were already whole numbers. We had 1, 1, and 4. Here we don't have a whole number. So here's a few little tricks when you need to multiply by whole numbers. If one of your numbers ends in 0.5, you're going to multiply by 2.
Or something 0.5 times it by 2.
Right.
Okay, write this down, guys.
Yes. If something ends in 0.3 or 0.33 or 0.66, you multiply by 3.
And when the kids come to class, they don't show up to learn new stuff. They show up to apply the things that they learn at home and to ask me questions about the things they learned at home. So now they can have my lesson, if you will, what I would normally have stood up and lectured to them in class with some added features. They get that at home, and then what they were expected to do for homework is now what they do in my class. Life is different for me because I no longer am the guy who stands up in the front of the classroom and just yaks at his students for an hour or however long the class is. Now I walk around the class and I help kids. I'm a tutor, I'm a guide, I'm the putter-outer of fires, whatever it happens to be in my crazy chemistry class. I walk around and do that. I don't stand up front and teach under the kind of the traditional model. I'm Aaron Sams. I'm a teacher, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and I love Camtasia Studio.
Okay, welcome back. Aaron and John are doing some pretty cool things in their classroom. So we'll review a little bit. What is the flipped classroom? At its core, flipping your classroom means that you are changing the center of attention. In a traditional classroom, teachers are the center of attention. Teachers are the one giving the information, telling the kids what assignments to do, and how to prove to the teachers that they've mastered the content. Flipping means that it really is more learner-centered, more student-centered. And what that means for a lot of experienced flipped classroom teachers is that they say that you are no longer the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side. And so being the guide on the side means that you can still help kids with their learning, and you are also making them be active participants in their learning. You're still building relationships with those kids, and you can actually talk to every kid in your classroom. So what does flipping look like? What that usually means is the lecture part, the information part, the new content part becomes the homework. And that will usually take the form of a pre-recorded screencast or video, very much similar to what I am making for you today. And the key idea here is that it's short and specific content, 10 to 15 minutes at the most for a video to make. So we're not giving kids an hour-long video to watch on the most interesting topic ever. We're just saying 10 to 15 minutes, short, sweet, to the point. The homework that kids would then get at the end of class then becomes the classwork. This is what they spend their time doing during class. And so now this can lend itself to a lot more creativity and a lot more relationship building with your kids. So this means they do the practice problems in class. They can do a lab. I teach science, and we love more time for more activities, demos, hands-on activities. They can work in groups. You can go more in depth with the kids who are ready to go more in depth, and you can help the kids who are struggling. You can really get to each and every kid without feeling like you're pressed for time. So I'll give you an example of what that might look like in my chemistry classroom. So I have a 47-minute class period. In the traditional classroom, I would spend the first 5 to 10 minutes doing a warm-up, and this would be reviewing the previous day's material. I would then spend the next 20 to 25 minutes lecturing on new material. Let's say it's balancing equations today. So I have my PowerPoint, they're taking notes, but we all know what can happen in those 20 to 25 minutes. Kids are taking out their things. They need to sharpen pencils. We're redirecting kids. We're giving other instructions that aren't essential to what it is that they have to learn. They get 10 to 15 minutes of practice time. Here you go, practice some balancing equations on your own. I'll get to as many kids as I can. Oh, the bell rings. How do I know that they got it or not? The next day, they come in and we repeat the cycle again. And I'm never 100% sure if they really understand my lecture that we spent 25 minutes on. So let's flip it. In my flipped chemistry classroom, this is what my day might look like. The previous day, I have assigned a 10 to 15 minute video on balancing equations. So I have recorded my notes that I would be giving in class into a video format, and I give the kids that to watch for homework. I also prepare a study guide for them to take notes on. The next day, they come to class. We have 47 minutes. I still spend the first 5 to 10 minutes doing a warm-up, but now I'm also reviewing the study guide. I'm clarifying questions that they had. I'm checking that they did it, and then we're ready to move on. So now I have 30 minutes of practice time, 30 minutes to practice balancing equations. Or I can structure something else if they've mastered that after 15 minutes. But I have 30 minutes to work with them. I can get to the kids who are asking questions, and I can push the kids who are ready to move on, and I can actually talk to every student. I even have 10 minutes at the end to give a formative assessment, and look at that, 100% of my students have mastered balancing equations. So I know the next day I'm ready to cover something new. We know that we all teach different subjects, different contents, different grade levels, and so that's just one example with a chemistry classroom. You might make it look different depending on what you teach and what your class is like. But you can think about that as you start to think about how you're flipping your own lessons. But I want to address some common misconceptions that what flipping does not mean. Flipping does not mean that we as teachers are being replaced. All this means is that we're using technology to potentially enhance the learning that is happening in our classrooms. We as teachers are still valuable, essential pieces to helping the learning happen in our classrooms. So we really can't forget that. Students are not expected to be masters after watching this video. Just like we wouldn't expect them to be masters after listening to something the first time, they really have to still practice the material, engage with the material, and prove to you in some way that they have mastered the content. We're also not saying that this is good versus bad or right versus wrong. We're saying that flipping your classroom is different, and it can work, it could work for all classes and grades. There are teachers who are flipping their classrooms at the elementary level, and there are also college professors who are flipping some of their lectures as well. So it's really age dependent, and you're giving them the material that's appropriate for that age group. And we're also not saying that it's all or none. We are not saying that you have to start flipping all of your lessons tomorrow, or that you can't do any of them at all. There's definitely middle ground, and there's definitely room for you to start experimenting and trying with some of this with your own classrooms. Just start with one lesson. Just start with one concept or one tiny idea that you could take that you would spend normally that 15 minutes or 20 minutes in class lecturing on that you could turn into a video? And how would your class time look different? So, some ideas and ways for you to get started flipping in your own classroom. You can try using a website like Schoology or Sophia. Those are great places for kids to just go and get engaged with each other. You can have discussions on those websites. You can have them watch a video on one of those websites. You can find a video that someone else made. There are teachers making videos out there, and you can just find one of them. Khan Academy, YouTube, there's a ton of resources out there, so just borrow one that somebody else has made. If you're feeling up to it, you can start making your own videos. And there are a number of tools that can help you do that. Screencast-O-Matic and Jing are two free downloads from the internet that you can use to make screencasts. Snagit also makes screencasts, but you need to pay for it. You need to have a license. And Camtasia, which is the video recording software that I'm using to make this video for you, is also a subscription, like you have to pay for it. So if you're interested in either Snagit or Camtasia, you can talk to myself or Pete Grebner, and we can help find those resources for you. But there are two questions that you really need to think about if you're going to start flipping your lessons. And the first question is, what basic concept do you want to flip? You really can't take an hour's worth of material and turn it into a 10-minute lecture. But you can take just one short concept, one short idea, and turn that into a 10-minute video and have the kids watch that. So it really has to be short, focused content. You really can't give them too much at one time. And the second question is, how will you restructure your class time? If I'm not spending those 25 minutes lecturing, giving off a PowerPoint, or having the kids take notes, what am I having them do with that time instead? And for a lot of kids, for those 25 minutes, they're sitting very passively listening to you tell them something. So those 25 minutes can be a lot more valuable and a lot more useful to a lot more kids in your classroom. So what you do with that class time, if you're not lecturing, is going to be really essential and really important. We really thank you for taking the time to watch this video ahead of your professional development time on Friday, and we hope that this kind of can get the wheels turning in your head about how you can start flipping your own lessons. So on the study guide that you are following along with to this video, you can jot down a few things about what you find might be beneficial to flipping your classroom, and what some challenges might be to flipping your classroom, and ideas that you have for starting your own flipped adventure. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you Friday.